और इस वक्त सीधे रुख करेंगे चीन का, जहां पर G20 सम्मेलन के बाद मिशन के शेरपा अरविंद पनगड़िया मीडिया को संबोधित कर रहे हैं।
Trade liberalization and so forth. On investment, there was some guiding principles that were worked out. There is a separate document that the G20 have endorsed. There is also some language, some issue on steel, which has to do with the excess capacity that currently exists in the market and how to deal with it on a sort of more multilateral basis. So there is a proposal to create a global forum under the auspices of the OECD or with the support of the OECD, and G20 members will support that. And fourth agenda is development, again sort of ongoing agenda, mostly carried forward by the present presidency. And finally, there is a separate section on other significant challenges, and these include Brexit, terrorism, refugees, and a new issue has also been put on the table, which is the AMR, antimicrobial resistance. So that's the overall picture. Maybe you can ask questions. And climate. So climate also is a part of the other significant challenges. So there was on climate. I'm sure you all are interested. So there was an issue with respect to whether the G20 will endorse ratifying the Paris Agreement before 2016. On that, there were some disagreements. So the G20 have welcomed the countries that have actually ratified or plan to ratify within 2016. Others have said that they would try to proceed as soon as possible.
So what are the net takeaways from the summit from our point of view, and the areas where we influence the outcome?
No, we have influenced outcomes in every area. This was a negotiation, just so that you have the perspective, that lasted on a net basis, not gross, for 40 hours. It's at about 9-page single-space communique, over I think about 7,000 words. So it's a very extensive communique, and the principal reason it took 40 hours to negotiate is because we had views that did not necessarily agree with some of the other views on the table and all, and likewise on the other side as well. You can ask me, I can tell you. Climate change, for example. Climate change. I mentioned to you. I mentioned to you that I felt that we were not quite ready yet in terms of the domestic actions that are required for us to ratify, or at least to commit to ratify within 2016. So while we plan to do it as soon as possible, we were not yet ready to commit.
SDGs concerns for 2030, sir. Was there anything discussed as far as SDGs concerned?
SDGs are very much within the development context. SDGs are very much there, and there is a whole document on the SDGs that the G20 have produced, which the communique will endorse.
Is there any unofficial discussion with the Chinese government about that?
They want the cameras are there. Sorry. Yeah.
Specifically on steel, since you have a different arrangement on steel now in this G20, where you're talking about excess capacities in China. In India itself, we have, our steel companies are suffering, and they have contributed to NPAs. So what can India do about, do we take up the excess capacities of China? Can we use them?
Yeah, no. This is not China issue, and certainly we didn't speak in those terms. The discussions were in terms of the general excess capacity for steel and possibly some other industries. But steel was mentioned. Other industries were not mentioned.
Steel is largely China, right?
But the communique really is our discussions were more in terms of the excess capacity that exists and how to really deal with it on a multilateral basis, rather than, because the fear is that if individual countries act, then it degenerates into protectionist actions on the part of each of the countries. So can you do it in a more kind of systematic, managed way so that you avoid protectionist responses?
Is there a solution today?
Sorry?
Is there a solution to this?
Well, that is what this global forum will seek.
Modi and Obama has been...
No, please confine yourself to the G20 right now.
So
These
as
are
far as
Sherpa for the
terrorism is
G20.
concerned, terror financing is concerned, was there any kind of talks or discussion on the G20 forum? And was there any kind of outcome as far as this terrorism issue is concerned?
So yes, it was very much discussed, and
I think that is in the fifth session, sir, which is yet to take place.
no, this is not. So I'm talking only our Sherpa discussion.
Yes,
So
okay.
I'm
And
referring to
on the
the
base erosion profit shifting part, Prime Minister has urged all the G20 nations to implement it within stipulated time frames. So what is the reaction of other G20 countries? Can we expect it
On
to be-
BEPS?
On the BEPS?
No, BEPS, there is general agreement. BEPS, the problem of BEPS is that only G20 cannot successfully carry the agenda, because, this is about profit shifting, which can shift outside of G20 agendas also. Outside of G20 countries also. So therefore, the push by India particularly has been that, look, we need other countries outside of G20 also to come on board and implement
So for the
BEPS.
automatic exchange of information, is there any kind of mechanism which is ready, infrastructure?
So there is something you'll see which was discussed. I'll tell you. So there is a multilateral convention on mutual administrative assistance in tax matters, and that does relate to this international standards on
On the
automatic
terrorism
exchange.
issue, what is it that we have put up and what is it that G20 has agreed? On the issue of terrorism and terrorist financing.
No, this is financing, right? So,
Yeah.
so the G20 have endorsed, will endorse the multilateral convention on mutual administrative assistance in tax matters. This relates to this kind of international standards for automatic exchange.
That's one of the issues. What about intelligence sharing?
Also, on we call for ratification of UN Convention against corruption to improve public and private sector transparency. So that also is very much there.
Are there
Sir,
any
I'll try.
discussion by the two leadership about NSG issue?
Sorry.
Any discussion?
This is-
So our Prime Minister spoke about fast-tracking global economic governance structure. This has been a regular feature, every summit talks about it. Is there a movement forward this time around?
Sorry, on?
On global economic governance, reform of global economic governance.
That's very open, right?
No,
What we are
the
talking
quota
about,
reforms and all, is there anything happening?
BEPS, terrorist financing, these are all global governance issues. And you don't, right? Then the Prime Minister...
So what about Bretton Woods?
Sorry? No, they're also, the Prime Minister, in fact, himself has
Quota
said...
reform, Prime Minister spoke about.
He spoke about that not only quota reforms, but also he said that, look, this should be based on quotas primarily. The IMF, centrally the IMF should be supported by quotas rather than alternative sources of financing.
Is fossil fuels discussed?
So there was a discussion on energy, which included the discussion on fossil fuel subsidies. There has been an kind of from the past commitment on the part of the G20 members to phase out fossil fuel subsidies in medium term. But there was also some discussion of countries adopting some specific date, but there was not an agreement on that. So it remains what was agreed at Antalya, which is
In the area of infrastructure financing, did we have...
There's a general discussion that,
G20 सम्मेलन में भारत की ओर से शेरपा अरविंद पनगड़िया जिस वक्त बता रहे थे कि कई अहम मुद्दों पर यहाँ पर सहमति बनती नजर आई है G20 में, जिस तरह से जिसके आज दूसरे दिन भारत के प्रधानमंत्री नरेंद्र मोदी ने दुनिया के कई दिग्गज नेताओं के साथ द्विपक्षीय बातों पर चर्चा की, और कई तमाम ऐसे मुद्दे हैं जिसमें जिसमें मुद्दे हैं या तमाम जो काले धन की बात है, उन पे तमाम ऐसे मुद्दे हैं जिन पर सहमति बनती नजर आई और एक अच्छी सकारात्मक सोच निकल कर आई। खबरों का